Believing is something that we want to really do away with. We want to replace that with knowledge. And this comes through experience, the scientific method in some parts. The scientific method that we have been given can also be dismantled. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going into that. But we do want to be able to talk about things, agree on things, on rules of the nature of the function of this existence here. A big part of this existence here is the earth from which we are constructed of, the air of what we breathe, the waters that constitute a large part of our physical body, and then what's the other element of the four? Fire. That spark of life that animates us. Energy. Come and feel my energy. Is it foo-foo new age to say that people have energy? You know what else has energy? The earth. You know what else? The moon. You know what else? The sun. And we see how they play a big role in the seasons of the year and the circle of life, and how our life happens to share in that same cycle of birth, maturity, decay. Therefore, we are syncretized with the laws of nature. These laws could have been some other way, but they're not. They're that way. So then we deduce reasoning, purpose, meaning of said law. Just these laws, really. The law. The law of consequence, action, cause and effect. Now, yeah, but so I don't understand how the critic of astrologer can't figure that out. And we have all our holidays lined up with these certain astronomical parts. Astronomy is just the physical, material study of it. Taken out of it is any metaphysical meaning, somewhat, but it's still in there. And the whole survivor Darwinism, he has ideological, religious type things built into it. It's just more material, but it's not even. Darwinism can be dismantled very easily too. Now, the sun and the moon, their effect on us is obvious, but less obvious the more that we've come reliant upon electricity. But still, it's the vitamin D that we receive from the sun, from the spring equinox to the fall. is what we need to get us through the second half of the year. The vitamin D from it. Our health, our life is dependent upon the sun. And my phone holder. And then the moon to the waters more so because of her relationship to the sun and the electromagnetic energies that it exudes. The light, electric, magnetic, dark, feminine, as opposed to the active male. All is gendered. And it's about the coming of these two genders, these two separate genders, in together to one to create a third, a creation. Everything in existence abides by the three. Astrology is mainly the science of numbers, because in using numbers, we see how these celestial spheres, objects, phenomena relate to us here on Earth. Earth is the center of your system, your solar system, which is why astrology is done from a geocentric positioning, not the sun. Although sometimes it does look, you could look at a heliocentric chart and it could be informative. The esoteric idea is that we're supposed to transform out of the lunar body into a solar body to become fire, so that we don't get eaten up by the fire of the sun, which eventually, in some billions of years, maybe not even that long, I think the sun just burns up Earth, right? Am I right? Now, what's my critique of astrology is that those who are naysayers are probably 99.9% ignorant of it. I doubt anybody has really gone into an intense study on astrology and has come to the conclusion that it's all BS. If you ever meet a Virgo and how they're anal retentive, perfection, detail, critical self is quite different from the freaking signs before and after. Taurus, the salt of the earth. I love Taurus energy, but you know what Tauruses aren't? Not always that spiritual. That's kind of just a little basic. But you might find, you can find a Taurus with a more spiritual inclined makeup. If they have like just a Sagittarius moon or some stuff. So it's learning these elements, which is kind of alchemy, which is what chemistry came out of, just divorced from Aleph, the ether, the fifth element, the quintessential, the God aspect. And I don't like using that word God that much. Hashem. No. So critics of astrology, yeah, mostly just ignorance. Some people, that they're afraid of it because they think it's too complicated. Sometimes it is so in depth that if you're looking to pull an event out of a chart and be like, oh, there's that energy playing out. I feel like sometimes you can do that. Another critique is like, well, what does that have to do with the free will? Does that take free will out of the arena? And not so, because it's the weather. We don't really have control over the weather unless you're a harp. Unless you're but unless you're in Dubai, they make it rain. Not just in the strip clubs where they wear burqas. But we can control what we do in the weather. Do we want to carry an umbrella? Do we want to stay inside? Do we want to dance in it? There's us exercising free will in one level where we don't have free will. I would say when people are born with certain elements present more than others, and when they're in a certain act with each other, these different elements, then one is going to be more inclined to have certain reactions and actions and life circumstances. Now we can choose how we get through those life circumstances. There is the element of free will still in it. Now, okay, sure, some might even concede to the sun and the moon having effects on our makeup, not just physically, if you're born when it's hot as shit out and dry, your body, your physical makeup will probably be hotter and drier than most. And then that's going to affect your personality, because we're connected to our bodies. Our brains, which are the vehicle of our conscious intellect, is from the earth, the elements of the earth, and floats around in water, and it's energized with the fire. It's given consciousness as light. Now, one good thing about learning astrology is that we see our myths, our religious meta-narratives are in fact astrological in nature, and what they usually are expressing is how to experience God, open one's consciousness, individuate, reach one's human potential more. And that is done through a physical process of, channeling energy. How to receive life and how to give it. Light versus dark. But it doesn't have to be verse, together. Astrology is a study of light in relationship to darkness, and the science of numbers that arises out of that. Our alphabet, which really came from Acadia, Sumeria, Phoenicia, the runes, Proto-Indo-European, Sanskrit. Each one of those letters resembles a planet and a constellation, one of the major 12 constellations. So that's 12 plus 7, 19. And the other 3 letters to complete the 22 carved to the tro, in the Hebrew alphabet that carried this through, is the elements of fire, air, and water. Earth is it all. There is no letter for Earth. But if there were to be one, it would be the last one, 22, number 22, which is Tav, or the Tau, the T across, which is a seal. So that's just, and then when we realize that these religious narratives are not historical in nature, but rather allegorical or symbolic for the changing of the seasons, the movements of the celestial spheres, then that could lead to us getting the deeper esoteric meanings of this stuff, and then applying that, and also taking out the literal versions of it, which have been causing us much harm. Anybody live in the chat? Let me see that chat. Mac Dank, what it do? My phone dropped out of the freaking. I got one of these, and while I was driving, bam! I gotta do some pressure washing, fixing a door. I'm a handy man. I know we say handy person, I guess. I wear many hats. And this is my favorite. The Aquarian TV, baby. Rumple on the hill. Old chap. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, so there has been some critics of astrology lately. And in the, I would say, the traditionalist, the anti-Abrahamic schools. And I would like to say to them, that's all right. You don't have to believe in astrology. You don't have to know astrology. Right? You don't have to know yourself. When it is a tool to help us to be reflective and more conscious of ourselves. And then why are most Christians scared of astrology? The free will aspect a little bit. Oh, and you can have just charlatans and hucksters who use astrology like Nostradamus. Nostradamus, look into his roots and where he came from. The Jewish Kabbalists have made astrology a little bit more public. The rabbis have carried on astrology. Right now we're in the month of Nisan, the first month of the ecclesiastical New Year. An Akkadian name, that means the ripening of the barley, or the first fruits, because it's the first month of the year, Aries season, the first sign of the zodiac. Now, Christians just don't know the Hebrew Jewish roots of their religion, really. But then Rome was using it as taken from Greek, synced up with Egypt. And so Christians. Oh, one thing that Christians have a problem with, besides being ignorant of it, is fear of trying to interfere with God or something. Having daddy issues, being scared to learn, I guess. Thinking that it's trying to predict the future. We do that with every instant of the day. The weather report, the weather forecast, is that divinization. Christians, I'm really having a hard time even engaging them. Well, usually just out of ignorance. So through education must be the great way to break it through to these people, to get them out of that mental trap of this God who is doesn't want you to know good from evil, dark from light, day from night. And it's not so much predicting the future. I never really predict the future that much, although every year, when I've done my astrological reports, things seem to be happening. And if you look through all the other astrological reports, if any astrologer could even call themselves an astrologer, you could be an entry-level astrologer, and still there's a common uniformity in them all saying the same things, observing the same things, making the same deductions. There, in that sense, it could go under the definition of a science. Psychology, a pseudoscience, said by scholars and critics. Our physical sciences can be called a pseudoscience often, if we really go into that definition. If I was a Christian, I would actually use astrology to try to justify Jesus if I was nefarious. But really what it does, it shows that the Jesus story is like very many other solar mythological deities, or an amalgamation of these different archetypes into one. All right. Yeah, so astrology, if you don't believe it, no, I don't see any astrologers converting people looking really by the sword, killing over it. But it has been used to manipulate often, like the royal courts, by such charlatans as the ones I mentioned before. Dark Kabbalists, like the Russian, who's that Russian guy who crept into the Tsar's family through a daughter, through a woman. It helps to understand people, yourself better, hopefully, and others. I'm like, oh, that guy's a skeptical ass, overly critical Virgo. So I'll let him slide on not believing in astrology, not knowing astrology. And it's been kept secret and hidden from the profane masses, the vulgar, perhaps for good reason, so that we would have less charlatans and hucksters. But that's really part of the secret doctrine that's pouring out in this transfer into the Aquarian age of knowledge, is my hope. All right, my little lovebirds. This has been a fun talk. Did the people of Judea steal the knowledge and make it their own? These people have taken from other cultures and appropriated their stuff from time immemorial, from the stories that we have. I mean, we have to be. We don't want to blame just one people, but